Hello, and welcome to the Cubicorn Games podcast. My name is Dustin Morabito. This is definitely the first time I recorded this.
Definitely.
It's 2026, and the world is a nightmare. But we're not going to talk about that today, quite honestly. The only thing I'll say on that front is, fucking America is falling apart.
Faster than ever before.
Please stay safe. Whatever that means for you, stay safe. Because, like, fuck me, I did not expect the year to start this way. But that's where we're at.
All right.
But other than that, joining me to, for the moment, move past that and talk about video games, Lorraine Morabito is here.
I'm doing my best today. I've had a mild, cold-ish thing for the past week, and I have an absolutely incredible migraine today. So I'm here corporally, and that's about it.
Yeah, we've both been a little sick in the last couple days. Lorraine more so than me. And so hopefully this won't sound too terrible. We'll try to keep the coughing and nose blowing to a minimum, and or I'll try to cut around it when possible.
I mean, if you get me laughing, I'm going to start coughing. That's what's going to
That's
happen.
Dangerous. Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah, but we're powering through anyway because we have been, despite the world, despite sickness, despite all that, we have kind of been back at it. And I guess I should give one little update on family stuff. My dad's doing good. Because the last time we talked about that, he had just kind of come out. Was that what was happening? I don't even remember.
Well, 2 days ago...
Had he not been operated on at that point?
2 days ago from this recording, it had been a month since he got sent to the hospital initially, which was impossible for me to wrap my head around because it's been one of the longest months of my life.
Absolutely. Like the week when he had his surgery... So my dad had double bypass recently, and the week that he had his surgery, that was like... at least a month of mental time for me. I was just like, what the hell is going on?
Well, because in between the getting sent to the hospital and the surgery, my sister got married.
Correct.
So, like, that was just, like, it added, and there was my other sister's birthday, and there was a ton of other stuff.
Still, the holidays were coming up,
then,
as usual.
It was pre, like, holiday season and everything. It was so crazy.
Yeah, so December was an absolute... fucking shit show.
Just a fucking nightmare.
But it's January now. We're moving
so
on.
like, tell me.
And like I said, luckily my dad on that front. Well, I mean everything else went fine too. You know, Christmas was good. Diana's wedding was great. And my dad is doing well.
Yeah.
Right now he is completely on pace recovery wise. He just got some blood tests the other day that he'll get feedback from that pretty soon. But hopefully those are good. And yeah, I am thankful that it's gone as well as it has. That's all you could ask for. And so that's been a really good thing. And so that's what's up with that. Hopefully we won't have to report anything else on that front. For a good long time. Hopefully he'll be just doing well, and that'll be that. If we don't talk about it again, it's because he's doing well. So it didn't warrant another mention. As far as other stuff, we are officially back in the saddle. Like, this entire time, with, like I said, with the exception of, like, around the week or two.
Those, like, where
he was, like, prepping for and then had received surgery. Like, I didn't really accomplish anything meaningfully during that little period. But in the new year, we are right back at it, working on game stuff.
Doing our damnedest.
And things are going well. Again, we are fractionally behind where I would have liked to be, partially for dad-related reasons.
I mean, there's only so much we can do when life stuff starts happening.
Yeah, but not in terrible shape in terms of the timeline, I wouldn't say. But I am going to call now that, like, and when I put this up on Discord, I'll post a text message in there too, because I know not everybody listens. But I don't think we are going to ship a build this month, and I think there's a decent chance we won't bother to fill the gap in February, just because, like, I want to just keep rolling full steam towards the PAX build at that point. Yeah. And so the next public build you see from us will be at PAX East weekend. So I think
I was
the
honestly
27th.
Surprised you were gunning for one in January as well. Like, it just seemed like I understood, like, some of the logic behind it. It just seemed kind of, like, frivolous. I
mean, it was just like it would have kept us out of pretty similar cadence that we have been going at of putting out a build every, like, 6 to 8 weeks.
But given how much, like, runway we have left of stuff that we, like, are going to be showing in a public build fashion, it just seemed kind of weird, but yeah, whatever. But
again, that PAX build will be a pretty big deal, because it will, at that point, all of the platforming towers will exist in a significant form. Like I said, the back half of the game, specifically kind of those last 2 towers, are probably going to change a decent amount as the months go on. But they will be fully playable with kind of like, their intended mechanics in some form. And then I'm still really gunning for a version of that boss fight too, which like that work hasn't started yet. That'll probably begin in February-ish.
I mean, we've done a lot of
there's been a lot of
brainstorming
concepting and we've got a roadmap.
I've spent a couple of days just sketching stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
I have found a lot more success doing it on physical paper than trying to sketch stuff on my tablet, so that's been really helpful.
Yeah, I honestly think that kind of makes a lot of sense. I've actually tried to go back to it's not quite the same thing, but I've tried to go back to making some physical checklist stuff and doing a little more physical note taking, specifically for that part where it's like for my daily to-do list, I feel like for whatever psychological reason, I am better motivated to knock every single thing off if it's written down on something and I can swipe through it with a pen or whatever.
I think just for me, it's I'm less precious with a physical sketch because I don't have all of the tools to perfectly refine it and render it into a finished piece. It is literally just a means to an end. This is a working copy type thing, and I think that helped me, especially since we've been doing fewer bigger shows. I haven't had as much time to just kind of have that notepad in front of me and try to brainstorm stuff. I can't do that at PAX. We're too busy and we're always doing stuff and I'm always trying to engage with people or whatever. But sitting down with that notebook and just trying to work through ideas was very helpful.
Yeah, and I think that description is spot on. In general, but especially where we're at with that specific fight, where we have been kind of like prototyping and blue skying and just throwing stuff out there. Like you said, I think that makes perfect sense to me. That the absence of options is better for kind of rapid iteration thinking. And yeah, so you've been doing that, and you've provided me with a bunch of kind of pre-production assets for enemies in the last tower. So I've been working on that a bunch. Mm-hmm. One of them is pretty much stood up. He's mostly working. I hope I fixed the issue where he's clipping through geometry.
Oh, it was so funny.
It's at least less persistent. When I was messing with it last night, it didn't happen the last few times I messed with him. So hopefully, we'll see.
Because the best part was,
find out.
and if you never see this, cool, that means it's fixed. But it was it seemed to happen around when he was turning. So he would just kind of skirt his way through the wall. And then he would just keep trying to turn. So it's just one direction turn, one direction. And then he just kept moving further and further away.
Right.
It was very funny. It's just oh, there he goes. So long.
But yeah, that stuff's coming along real well. I'm pretty proud of the progress we made, and we've evolved. Again, we laid a baseline. I kind of started building stuff and or brainstorming stuff, and then we've made a couple of in-progress tweaks and a couple of things I want to try out, because the other 2 enemies in that world are not implemented yet, so I still got to get on actually.
I mean, one has bare bones sprites to work off of. The other one was more of just a... Mm-hmm. I made some proof of concept animations that have been reworked a little bit.
Yeah, but it's coming along, and I think that stuff's going to be really exciting by the time we get in there. And I think some of the little pivots that we made so far are going to pay dividends in the final thing in terms of being interesting and being a little different than the other stuff, and to some degree ratcheting the intensity up again a tiny bit, because this is the last kind of unique area along the main path. This is the final zone, as it were, of a normal base playthrough of the game, and it's exciting. It's still, again, the amount of stuff that we need to do just in general is still very high. I'm just trying to again do my best to just hunker down and all right, just keep working on stuff, get one thing done and then the other. And I'm trying to after PAX we're gonna have to really, because right now I'm really focused on that, so I have put a lot of other stuff to the wayside, finishing the support for multiple languages across the game, and implementing some of the other little stuff we've talked about, open space kind of level that'll exist between gameplay segments. We'll have kind of a little interstitial area. That's all stuff that needs to get done. There's a trillion things that need to get done. But we will reorganize after PAX, because that's going to be a really big gameplay relevant build, and then go from there. Refocus a bit potentially. But yeah, it's going well, especially, again, like I said, especially considering the amount of social obligations and curveballs we had over the last 6 to 8 weeks. I'd say it's going really well. So for that specifically, so that's again, we got to, whatever we're doing now, we got to keep that up in case we get any more curveballs, which I'm sure we'll get 1 or 2.
Oh yeah.
But gotta keep it together enough to either keep making forward progress or like recover pretty cleanly if we miss some. So far, so good. The work continues on. Tomorrow comes, as it were, but we'll get into that more later. And with all that, actually, like surprisingly, we have both played a ton of some video games.
I mean, I think it makes sense. We weren't getting work done because we couldn't like focus, so it's easier to like lose yourself in something more like recreational. Over the past month, I was working more evening shifts, which are a lot more demanding than the day ones because we have like a holiday program or whatever. So like on those days I was going in the afternoon, and that was almost a like time suck for productivity, like trying to get a bajillion different things done, like both around the house and just like prepping for work. Like it was impossible. So makes sense for something like that to crop up more around that time of year.
Do you want to go first or should I? Because I feel like I almost always lead off. Do you have a preference?
It doesn't matter to me.
You can go first because depending on how long you go, that'll... Like I said, I know I'm going to truncate what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
As far as Clair Obscur goes, one way or another for this podcast. So, yeah. Tell us about Kirby Air Ride, Lorraine. A game that you played. Air Riders. Thank you. I said that the other day, too. I think it's because when you type it into Google, because that game is so much newer, it just corrects you. Because when I was going to buy it, I just typed in Kirby Air Ride, and that was pretty much the first result anyway.
It's very much an Aliens situation.
Right.
But yeah, I've played a Switch 2 at long last. I hadn't even touched one until like the week of Christmas or whatever we got that game in.
Yeah. And you played it in handheld mode way more than I have, because I've still only played that thing probably like 2 or 3 hours, and like almost all of that has been docked.
It's just like with the way that we've got it set up, it's just like easier. I just pick it up.
Well, I guess that's
although its battery life is kind of shit though.
So that's one of the questions I was going to ask before we get into the game itself. How do you feel about the hardware and kind of that mode?
It feels pretty good. Like it feels good to hold. This week, I unironically I held both of them.
The Switch and the Switch 2.
There was a Tetris 99 event, and I was like, oh, I could just play that on my Switch 1, and I picked it up, and it had no battery, so I was like, oh, okay, and I was like, wow, this is really light. So the Switch 2 definitely has a lot more heft to it. I think the Joy-Cons, like, theoretically feel, like, less cheap. That was something I always kind of didn't like about the Switch in general, is, like, because of the, like, modularity of it, there was a certain cheapness to it. Like, it wasn't the same kind of, like, for lack of a better word, almost Fisher-Price cheapness that the Wii U gamepad had. Just that thing just didn't feel good. Like, the plastic was weird. Like, it just felt strange. And the Switch felt better than... So this feels like a refinement of that, but I still don't know how much better it actually is.
So,
like,
yeah, my question was going to be, since you
I haven't played both, like, a Switch and a Switch 2 back-to-back to tell you, like, oh, like, this...
Yeah. But you have played at some point the Switch 2, and the Steam Deck.
Correct.
So across those, just like your initial off-the-dome impression, which do you have a preference of the three ergonomically, just like how it physically feels in your hands?
It's hard to say, honestly. Because, like, the Switch 2 still, like, kind of feels like it has a Steam Deck problem of it just being really big for my hands.
Okay.
Like, the Switch fits really nicely. I do not have big hands. I'm not a large person. So the Steam Deck definitely, the Steam Deck makes me tired after a while. Because that thing is heftier than the Switch 2, but I do think it feels nicer.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I still think there's a middle ground for, like, a piece of hardware that is more, like, in the realm of Switch 2 thickness, but that still has, like, the grips. Like the molded grips on the handle parts, as opposed to the Joy-Cons that are still like flat to the touch on the back. Yeah,
the Steam Deck feels like it was made more for hands, and the Switch still feels like it's gimmick first and then human consumption second.
It's prioritizing the part of it that almost no one uses.
Yeah,
honestly, because like people, you're either used it the majority of the time docked with a like regular ass controller, or in your lap with the Joy-Cons attached to the thing,
or I've taken the Joy-Cons out because I can't find a Pro Controller, and they're in the dock that makes them a controller. Like, I don't think I've ever, except for maybe, like, 1-2 Switch or whatever the fuck that launch title was.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever taken the Joy-Con and, like, willingly used it sideways. Yeah. Like, that is just not appealing. It is not made for that. Like, not made to do that well. Like, it's not a controller that's designed to be, like, a chiclet-sized. It's it's trying to do 3 different things at once, and I don't think that's still its strong suit.
Yeah, I think that's the sad irony of the physical hardware of the Switch design, like both of them, is that like the reason that the Joy-Cons are the way they are, like the way they attach and why they're removable at all, is to functionally basically emulate the Wii in large part, except the Wii remotes were ergonomic because they were rounded, like, you know, it was like a handle, not like a slate.
Because the Wii remotes were, get this, modeled after remotes,
right,
which are also meant to be held by human hands and therefore have some level of ergonomics to them built in.
Yeah, and so, yeah, the Joy-Con, the loose Joy-Con problem is whatever, I guess.
And not to get on the loose Joy-Con problem, which is all of them, because I think they all eventually, like, suffer stick drift.
Yeah,
like,
including this one should. Because
I haven't noticed it.
I guess we'll find out.
I haven't noticed it yet, knock on every piece of wood.
It is still possible that it is more durable than those products, but it's not like a new technology. It's still the same old. Like, it's not like the TMR or the Hall Effect sticks that are resistant to that kind of wear.
Why wouldn't, like...
Because money. Because they
I
can just sell you more.
But it's stupid and dumb.
Planned obsolescence.
Have you fucking seen the new colors they released? So you know how they look now? Where they have like the little ring
I will say
and
that
the inside
part,
color. That's all the new ones are.
Yeah.
There's like a purple and a green one.
I definitely preferred the old Joy-Cons from that perspective.
It's so depressing.
I thought, like the bolder colors on more of the device.
Nintendo hardware used to be the like place you go for fun, silly colors. Like just look at like the Game Boys or like the GBAs and the DSs. They went fucking crazy. Now it's just like you can fucking have every color as long as it's black.
They went matte black across the board with just that little splash of color and like the inner joystick ring.
But that's what the new ones are. Like they're like, oh, we announced these new pair, and it's like literally identical except for those 2 accent color pieces are changed, and it's like, you want me to pay $100 for these?
But yeah, I was just curious, but that's enough on the hardware front. I was just literally wondering, because you've played the hardware itself way more than me too, so I was just kind of curious what your impressions were.
Roughly 30 hours more, because that's how much I've played of Kirby Air Riders over the past like 3 weeks. I don't know how long it's been.
But yeah, how has Kirby Air Riders been?
I think the description I used for it when talking to you about, because like I loved that first game. I played a lot of the original GameCube one. Mostly, like, when it came out and with my sisters. Like, we were playing it multiplayer in person. We didn't have the LAN anything, so we've only ever done it on a single GameCube. But this one feels like it's taken the route that Smash Brothers did, which, again, is another Sakurai, Sora nonsense thing, where there's so much stuff, like, just kind of, like, needlessly put in there. Like there's like you're constantly getting coins, which in Smash Brothers I feel like you could use for more stuff, and it's just for like buying a finite number of customizable things for like, you've got like a license, which like is your like calling card for like online stuff. People can look at it, you can put like little stickers on it, you can change the background color.
It's like your player card, like lobbying up kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's also like customizable machines, and that's not stat or handling wise, they all handle the same, but it's just like making the Warp Star look like Patrick Star, because people do that.
Would you play a Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts alike called Kirby and the Customizable Machine?
I mean, that already kind of is what City Trial is in a way.
Look at that, perfect segue.
I guess.
Continue.
But then, like, the thing that I still haven't figured out, and I've played like 30 hours of this game, is that you get gummies. I don't know what they do. You're not, like, feeding them to stars. There's a mode where you can just go into a space and, like, physics manipulate them. But I don't know what that does.
A number that's gone up? And
no, they're like, so they look like they look like the stars, like the machines. And you get them, like, if you're doing, like, a multiplayer, like, if you're playing online, like, and you beat people, you'll get the ones for, like, their machines or your machine. I don't really know, but I don't know what they do. And they say it's, like, for, like, to chronicle your accomplishments, but I don't know what that means. Why are the gummies there, Hal? Sora, Sakurai, why are the gummies there? What do they do? I'll show you the mode, Dustin.
Yeah, the Kirby Air Riders equivalent of Funko Pops.
I don't know.
They exist to be obtained.
I don't know what they do.
And then you possess them. That's what they do.
But there's like,
you have them now.
But again, like the original, I feel like Kirby Air Ride GameCube
Yes.
kind of helped push the Smash Brothers series in the direction that it's going because it had that checkbox screen first. That was a thing that they did first in that game. Melee really didn't have any kind of progression outside of like the trophies, and Brawl introduced some of that stuff, and it has spiraled out of control in more recent games. But that started in Air Ride, and in Air Riders they have there's 2 more. So initially there were 3 for the 3 different modes: Air Ride, Top Ride, and City Trial. They were 100 by 100. They're 150 squares now, so they're not it wasn't 100 by 100. It was 100 squares, excuse me. And now it's 150, I think. Or it's like 25 or something like that. Like it's a bigger number, and it's not a square anymore, it's a rectangle. But there's also like a story mode, like a single player mode, where it's similar to like the classic mode in Smash Brothers, where you're going along a set route, you're doing individual little like challenge things, races, stadiums from City Trial, Top Ride things, but with twists. You're fighting bosses. It has a story to it. It's very obnoxious and convoluted, like most Kirby stories are, which I found endearing. And it has its own checkerboard thing, and then online has its own checkerboard too, which crosses all 3 of the different modes because you can play all 3 of them online. So there's stuff for all of them. Playing those modes online will also unlock stuff on their normal checkboxes, which is great. Some games just wouldn't do that. Like if you did you were supposed to like do this one mini game in Stadium, you did it online, cool, you've accomplished that on like the offline version. There are certain like checkboxes that specifically call out being offline, which is fine. So there's a lot to do, and I have done like a lot of it. I was telling my coworker, we were kind of talking about it, like I think I've maxed like my current like grinding enjoyment of that game, because I'm like upwards of like 70 through like 90 odd % done with every single grid. Story and City Trial being most complete, because I did do like a second full playthrough of the story mode, because that unlocks some stuff in the other modes as well. And I fucking love City Trial. I have literally 4 more squares left on there, and I don't know how I'm going to complete them, because a lot of them are by chance and kind of hard. But like there's only so many times I can just like, I'm just going to go run some City Trial. Like people online are fucking aggressive, and it's not very fun. But I think I've kind of like maxed my like both my skill level, because like I'm also not very good at just racing games in general. They've never really been a thing that I enjoy playing like hyper competitively or anything. Mm-hmm. So like the Air Ride and Top Ride are lagging behind a decent amount. They're like maybe like 80 and 70% complete on their own. All of them I have over 100 checks on, but there's more than that, obviously. But I'm just not good. I can't get good. So I think I'm probably about done with it for now. But I did really enjoy it. I think like the original game I might still prefer a little bit, because it feels just simpler. Like stuff got added on. Like I don't really like the supers that you can do on everybody. One of the things that really fucking frustrates me is that it's the same button as getting off or swapping your machine in City Trial. So there are times where like I'm just next to a machine, I'm just driving it. Yeah. I'm just driving by it, trying to use my super, and then I switch machines and it lowers my gauge, so I can't do it. Sometimes like it will just auto switch you to machines, which really sucks.
Is that just like if you hit them, or is it just like a
kind of if you're low? Like it'll automatically do that because everyone starts in the Compact Star. That's just what it was in the original one. It's a shitty machine. It's meant to just be to level everyone's playing field to begin with. And if you run into a machine on it, you almost always switch. So sometimes it just happens. Like I've gotten so like, and because of how like they've amped up the speed, it's so easy to just lose fucking control and not like. Eventually at a point like late in the City Trial match when I'm like trying to do something, like my machine is going too fucking fast. I can't control it. I can't do anything. So it's just like you're just zooming for like a minute while you wait for the timer to go down. It's just kind of annoying. Whereas like it didn't used to get that fast. And I think it's just so much cleaner. I think the original one is just, it's obviously simpler because it is an older game and not an iteration in a series or whatever. But I think I still just prefer it. This game is still very good. If you liked the original one, I can't imagine why you wouldn't like this at all. It's not really a city. I don't know. I don't really like the city trial map. It's got too much underground. It's really easy to get lost in because it's like all kind of interconnected and you fall so easily. But they also like railroad you from falling off edges by like these invisible walls that sometimes are there and sometimes aren't. There's stuff about it that just feels clunky that was not present in the original one because it wasn't as like, it wasn't trying as hard. I feel like this one is trying hard to have a lot of content where the other one was just like so robust that there was a lot to do.
I have a thought that just occurred to me.
Oh God, he's thinking.
Would you say that this game has gotten, is it the kind of the same amount of Battle Royale, or has it gotten more Battle Royale now that that's become like a genre?
No.
Because now that I think about it, I'm like, man, is Kirby Air Ride like sort of a weird precursor to like PlayerUnknown's Battleground?
I mean, City Trial kind of was.
Yeah,
like City Trial always was
that.
that.
Had never occurred to me until this moment, but I'm like,
But people aren't like leaving. Like you're just stuck because it's more about like you're still trying to do what you can with what you're given.
Because all the
but
City
the
Trial...
goal is the mini game at the end.
Yes, that's what I was gonna
killing
say.
Everyone and making it out.
Yeah,
no, it's not an extraction shoot. It's not an extraction
like
racer.
The progression is kind of similar, where you're like plopped randomly onto a place on equal playing field, but then the end goal is different in that, like you said, you're building towards some other specific task after that is distinct from just wandering around picking up power-ups and stuff.
And one thing that is nice is like kind of how they changed the stadium. Like I could talk about Air Ride and Top Ride, but like they're literally the same. The only thing I will say about Top Ride is that they got rid of the steer and free stars. So like the control schemes are the same, but you just use any machine. I think that kind of sucks.
So those are both racing modes.
Yes.
And Air Ride is the more Mario Kart-y one.
Yes.
And Top Ride is the more like RC Pro-Am one.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't like how much bigger the Top Ride maps are. Like they're all based off of the new maps in the Air Ride mode, like thematically and kind of how they're structured, which I think is cool, but like they're so big. Whereas Top Ride used to be like a single screen map. Like a lot of them are bigger than that. And you can like force the camera to zoom out, but it makes it so much harder to see because these maps are so much more ambitious. And I think that is to its detriment. I used to really love Top Ride. I miss you, Steer Star. That's the valid control.
Interesting.
And like it's fine. I like that they put the old Air Ride courses in there that you can unlock. All of them are there.
I mean, that's very Smash Brothers-y at this point.
But none of the old Top Ride maps are there is the weird thing.
Well, like you said, though, I feel like that would clash more if they've expanded the scope of the other ones, which is still kind of sad, I guess, that they're not in there.
Yeah. I wish they'd put the old City Trial map in there, too, but I don't think it can handle, like, 16 people.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Which also kind of sucks because like that city, those are you wouldn't last a day in the streets where they raised me. But yeah, like those modes are vastly unchanged with the exception of the like machine shift and like there's just a ton more characters, which it's fine. Like I only play as Kirby because I want to be Green Kirby and that's fucking it. I like the crash ability that does big explosion. I think it's a lot of fun. But the thing that they changed about how the stadiums are decided is that sometimes they will force you into one. Sometimes they'll be like before the city trial even starts. It's like, hey, this is the stadium. This is what you're playing. Build towards that. Every other time it will give you like you can just choose one of 4 options. You're not voting, you're picking. So whoever picked that is put into that. So like I've done some stadiums where it's me and one other person because everybody else picks other stuff. If too many people pick the same one, it partitions you into different like rooms. So I think the maximum is like 6 or 8. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really counted participants at once. It's probably 8. So it's like you have more options. It's not like, oh, I've got this really bulky slow star and now we're doing a drag race. Like you have ways and like it'll recommend like, oh, like it'll kind of like star it, be like you should play this one based on your machine or these 2 are really good for you, which I think is nice. Like I didn't hate the like unknown element of it before, but I like having a way to potentially scrape out a win with like maybe suboptimal machine for like half of the things on there. I think that was a very good change, but there's also just like, I think there's just a lot of shit like just in the game. There's a lot of content for better and worse, but it is like, I mean, I like it. I've played like 30 hours of it.
You must be more.
I've gotten
to playing it that long. You must be more happy that it exists than not.
I've gotten to green rank in City Trial, which is 30,000 global power points or whatever, which is all I wanted to achieve. I knew green was out there and I had to get there, man. It took me forever to get out of yellow. People are mean. But yeah, like if you enjoyed it, it's not.
This is the tiniest little detail about that game, but I really like how fast the countdown is. 3, 2, 1, start. Like it's very quick. That's a lot
of that stuff is very snappy, just across the board.
Yeah.
Like, which again, it feels very like Smash Brothers in that way, like Ultimate or whatever. Like, I think the original lent so much to that franchise beforehand, and it's taken back with dividends, advancements that were made in the much more prolific and frequently iterated on Smash Brothers franchise.
Yeah.
But I also the old one's still there. I wouldn't call it a reason to get a Switch 2 personally, because they're so expensive.
Well, again, this is from playing about, I probably have watched you play about an hour total of Kirby Air Riders, and I've played about an hour and a half to 2 hours of Mario Kart. For being the game that Nintendo made more expensive because it had the better pedigree, and I guess the open world thing is interesting depending on who you are, but I quite honestly, as someone who's not a huge fan of either, like I'm not the biggest Mario Kart fan, and
Same.
I've never played Kirby Air Riders really, or Kirby Air Ride really, the original game. I feel like Air Riders is the more robust product. It seems
and
like
I
it
honestly
to me.
think that's because of how at its core it's very simple. It is a one button game. That's it. Well, I guess there's technically a second button with the fucking special ability now. It's also how you get off your star as opposed to like holding, like you can reverse, which I think is stupid. I don't know why they did that. And like it inherently is so much simpler. Like they made it more complex because you can like draft people now. Like they leave little star trails, and I think that's dumb. There's a lot of little things that like were tweaked, but it is still like generally speaking very simple. And I think that's honestly something that I really admire about how Sakurai designs things, is that he starts from a simplistic gameplay, like hook and beginning, and goes from there. Like he polishes that until it fucking shines, and then iterates or like adds to, or like figures out what you can do with that.
Right.
And I don't think that was ever the like crux of Mario Kart. Mario Kart was always just a kart racer, where Kirby Air Ride, both the original and this new one, come from a slightly more, like a higher pedigree of design rather than franchise strength. And I do, like, I've always preferred Air Ride to any Mario Kart game, period. Like, if you ask me what my favorite racing game is, it's Kirby Air Ride. Hands down. I love that game. But it isn't a Mario game.
True. Right.
Which is why, like, it's not a Miyamoto game. But also, like, I would argue that Sakurai's up there in, like, just clout. I don't know.
Oh, in terms of being a prolific creator?
Like,
yeah, for sure. I know he's been, quite honestly, he's been in the game, like, on the ground, meaningfully doing game dev way longer than Miyamoto has at this point.
Yeah.
Because he's been kind of, like, more in the upper echelons, like, hands-off, kind of like, you know.
And
giving,
Sakurai's
like,
still in
to
there,
people.
man. Like,
Yeah.
never ask him for anything ever again.
No, that's cool. But,
yeah, it's an extremely polished game. It's like, it's a very well made game, and it's also a Kirby Air Rider game, which is fun. And Kirby's really cute. I like him a lot. I like the other little characters. I don't really care about playing as any of them. I've technically played as all of them. They're fine.
Because they do have different functions, right?
Yeah, like they have their own, like, everybody's got their own like stats. They all have their own like super ability or whatever. But they can all also copy enemies. Like, they can do everything that Kirby can do. So like, I feel like that kind of defeats the point because the reason that Meta Knight and DDD were in the first game as unlockable is because they were so different. Like, you couldn't get copy abilities with those two. Like, you were sacrificing that.
So you're saying they are different, but in some ways they're less different than they used to be.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
And they pull some deep cuts. Shout out to Squeak Squad representation. Nobody thinks about that game ever. They've got like the random ass enemies like the fucking Starman, which is like the third Starman in the like Nintendo canon. Mm-hmm. They all mean something completely different. Cappy's there. Fucking Chef Kawasaki's still kicking around for literally some reason. I don't know why. Ton of characters that I don't know from newer games.
Sure.
Fucking waifus.
Everyone
in there.
is here.
Literally. Fucking spider lady. I don't know, man. It's weird. But it's cute. It's a good time. If you have a Switch 2, look for it if you ever find some kind of deal at a retailer because you know it's never going on sale because it's a Nintendo game.
Well, that's the type of game where, like, again, like you're never going to probably find it for like $20.
Never.
But if you do get a Switch 2 like next Christmas, for example, I feel like those kind of Nintendo games, if it's not like the absolute like upper echelon ones like your Zeldas or whatever, they're usually like $15 to $20 off on the holidays or something. So like, sounds like a perfectly cromulent thing to pair like a Switch 2 with. Yeah. If you got one in the next 12 months.
It's very easy to like pick up and play, especially with like younger kids. It's like they've got all of the like the free modes, like you can just do free explore of the city and just kind of like play around. They have more modes like that for both Top Ride and Air Ride, as well as like time trial modes. So there's ways to like have fun without needing to like staple. And there's a lot of like customization for like how you interact with like computer like controlled characters, how many there are. There's a lot you can tweak and mess with to make whatever experience you want to have with it, which I think is really nice.
With all that said, if you're done with Kirby Air Ride discussion for now, again, if you play more of it, we can potentially talk about more in the future.
I doubt there's more.
I feel that was pretty exhaustive.
Again, because of how much I've played and how much I've already accomplished in the game, playing more wouldn't lead to more insight. Sure. It would just be like, I'm still fucking playing this game, guys.
Sounds reasonable, because I have a kind of an interesting jumping off point. In that, well, so you mentioned this. Then, like I said, I really respect Sakurai as a designer too. Like, I know we've talked about that in general, like in the past, but I do think a staple of the way he builds his games is that it's not just that it's not only that they are simplistic, it's that like the complexity he adds on is never necessarily meant to overload the player's mental stack, I think.
Yeah, it's a very sleek design. Yeah. Like it's even things like, I mean, Smash Brothers can get very complex, but like it comes from a very like intuitive, like there's something like I would honestly say beautiful about how he designs some of his games in general, like stuff where he's heading it. He's a very intentional designer, and I think that's something like worth celebrating and like studying for sure, emulating if possible, or at least like taking inspiration from.
Yeah, because the opposite of that coin, right, is that like there are games that are that part of the game explicitly is to kind of like is intended to overload the mental stack, is to something that you either will be overwhelmed by or can use to overwhelm your opponent. Like I think an example of that is like, you know, traditional fighting games like Street Fighter versus the Smash Brothers stuff, which is like, at least in terms of like the general trend line, like stuff has veered more towards the Sakurai direction than the Street Fighter direction. Like, those games have either become less like that or had like modes like Street Fighter's got modern controls that make them less like that as an option. And then there are games like Clair Obscur Expedition 33, for example, that make it more like that in genres that usually aren't as much like that, because that game, combat-wise, the crux of it really is like by the time you get to the mid-game and later, we are intentionally going to try to overload your mental stack. Like,
great.
We're gonna like increase the number of actions, change the tempo, and throw curveballs at you to just jab at you and make you like kind of do repetitions of stuff and see what you can deal with. And that part of it I really like. Like, we're going to talk about a lot of different parts of this game in the next month or two, probably. I will say for this conversation, there are going to be no explicit spoilers for the game whatsoever. In a second, I'm going to give some, like, my general vibes about the narrative, but in the future...
the biggest spoiler is that you fucking finished it.
I did finish it. Yeah, so we'll get to that too. Like, the mainline story I did finish. It took me, with doing some of of the side stuff, it took me in the neighborhood of 43, 44 hours, I think. But yeah, we're not. So don't worry about if you care about spoiling the game. We're not going to do that today. This is going to be a more technical, more nuts and bolts kind of discussion about it. And I'm going to nitpick a decent amount because that's my fucking job. That's what I'm here to do. But like you said, to start us off with, before anything else, I understand why it won
Everything.
many awards. I do think it is one of the better games that I have played in a very long time. And as you said, for me specifically, the overwhelming majority of things that I play, even stuff that is otherwise very critically acclaimed, like Hollow Knight, like
you just don't finish.
I will bounce off of it. Yeah. Like either it won't capture my attention and I will like choose to kind of put it down and never play it again, or if there ends up being a big gap, like if I'm getting along with a thing well enough and then for whatever reason, something comes up and 2 weeks goes by and I haven't touched it, then usually I will never go back. Usually that game is dead to me. And that happened with Clair Obscur, at least in terms of my dad's, him getting sick or whatever, all that stuff happened. But I was in deep enough and I was invested narratively and gameplay wise enough that I did go back. Like, I was probably only at like 15 or 16 hours or something when like all that shit popped off with him, and I did go back and finish it. And so that is the best endorsement that I can possibly give a game is that I finished it.
Yeah.
That's a short list. Especially these days.
Yeah, recently for sure.
Yeah, like, back in the day, whatever, as a kid, but like in my 30s, if I finish a game, that's a big deal. So I do think it is quite good. And like I said, I really enjoy the combat. I think that part of it is awesome. That is an idea for a game that I've like wanted to, like I've thought about maybe we would do something like that, like a very actiony kind of turn-based thing, and maybe we will. I don't know, but it is a type of game that I had been interested in, and now to see one come out and execute really well, I was like, well, that's cool. I'm glad that exists because combat-wise, the fact that it is a turn-based RPG that is largely kind of reaction-based, where like when you do attacks, like each one has kind of a cadence when you push the buttons to execute it to its maximum to like successfully, and when enemies attack you, every single thing they can do to you, you can either dodge it or parry it, or like there are I think it's called gradient counters, which is just another button press that it's kind of like a super parry, like it's the only thing you can do to those types of attacks, but everything can be and is intended to be reacted to. And so it's got that really cool combination of like, because there's no like active time battle gauge or whatever going down constantly, it's not pressing you to like, oh, I need to decide what I'm gonna do right this second. Like you can take your time to strategize in the beats between stuff happening, but then once actions are taking place, it's not like a boring, like I'm just sitting here and watching God deal 999,000 damage to me and I just have to take it because I didn't spec correctly for this. It's like, oh, I can do something about this. This enemy is gonna hit me 15 times, and if I know my shit, I can parry it 15 times. So all that part of the game just feels like it was made for me. Like I love this. This is great. I am here for it. And then there's a lot of little stuff on the periphery that I'm a little confused by, or like for actually disappointed by, or just with the story stuff definitely a bit let down. Because like I said, without any specifics in the story, there is a twist probably about 85-90% of the way through the game that I personally don't care for.
And it's not necessarily how it was executed in this game. This is something that we have talked about kind of especially more at length now.
Yeah.
But it's a type of twist that like neither of us super really like in general. Like the kind of twist that it is. If you know, you know.
Yeah, so we'll get in, we'll talk about that someday later.
And we've had so many, like, because I have not played this game. I somewhat badgered Dustin to just tell me stuff that happened in it because, like, there's only so many hours in the day. The combat didn't sound super appealing to me personally. That's not the kind of RPG that I like. And he clearly wanted to talk about it. So I was like, just tell me. And I have since, because ironically, AGDQ 2026 was last week, and they had a Clair Obscur race. And we did watch that after he had finished it. So, like, I got to see a lot of the, like, general areas and kind of, I didn't get to see the story beats because they were skipping all the cutscenes.
But you got a general idea of how it plays and where you go and all that.
And I know what happens. So we've had many, and I've watched the end of the game as well, partially because Dustin wanted to show me stuff, and we talked about it. So I know what happens.
Yeah, but that's anyway. my like I said, we'll have a whole other conversation probably with a couple other people, because I'll probably get Brian on for that. I might get Preston on for that, because I'd asked him, I was like, oh, has Fro played it? And he was like, no, but Preston has. And I was like, oh, hey, that's an option. So I'll hit him up at some point, see if he wants
boys are yapping.
See if the boys get the boys together and the boys will yap. You can join us if you like. I'll leave it up to you. But the boys will be yapping at some point about the Clair Obscur narrative. But yeah, that twist specifically, I do think, to some degree, in my opinion, kind of taints the whole story and taints any of the endings you end up with. Like, there are two ways that you can end the game, and I think neither one is particularly well served by that little twist and how it kind of all comes together one way or another. Which, again, I think cuts deeper because leading up to that point, I think they do a really good job kind of giving everybody time to grow and exist. Like,
you were telling me that it
cast.
kind of shifts focus every now and then of who's in the lead narratively, so to speak.
Yeah. So
to see more people, and then it just kind of almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
After a point.
So narratively, like I said, in my opinion, I think it stumbles a bit. Like, that is, if I had to pick a part of the game that is the weakest, that would be my choice. And intrinsically, is that I think the story doesn't quite get where it could have gone, or it doesn't quite pan out in the way I had hoped it would at earlier points of the game, let's say. But that's all we're going to talk about.
I think there could have been ways where it could have at least been better.
I've got ideas.
Even keeping that, because one of the things that I've noticed is that, as I just craft a lot more of my own stories, my editor brain literally can never shut off. So I'm always analyzing narrative, and structure and how things are and where things are and all of that stuff. That is because I have honed that skill within myself, that function is always on, regardless. It's the same with you, and especially game design stuff. It's to me, it's there to an extent, but I know because of how much more time you've spent deep in the game design mechanic trenches, that stuff sticks out a lot more like sore thumbs to you, and you just kind of you focus on it in a way that is different from how I would focus on it when something butts up against me. I know I'm analyzing and critically thinking of everything that I'm doing when I'm playing a game as well, but narratively, that is something doesn't matter what game, book, movie, anything, I'm picking apart narratives all of the time.
Because the last thing I'll say about that, actually, that since you brought that all up, is that, again, the way it kind of falls flat for me is not a way that, it doesn't seem technical in any capacity.
No.
It's not
it's a choice.
Yeah, it's not like the way BioShock Infinite just kind of stumbles to a close because they ran out of runway and they just had to fucking do something.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like that kind of thing at all.
No, it was a distinct choice that was made, and it's not a choice that either of us particularly like.
Agreed.
On a greater scope of how narratives are made. Again, It's not something that they specifically did with it. It is the choice that they made.
Well, maybe a little of both.
Well, yes, but
yeah, but like you said, it was what they chose to do is
on top of implementation. But I would say mostly it's at least from my perspective, again, as someone who hasn't played it but has now done a lot more analyzing and ruminating on it, for lack of a better word. It feels like the choice itself was more the strike I would give it versus exactly what they did with it. They could have still made that choice. I still probably wouldn't have been happy about it, but they could have handled it better.
For sure. And then the couple of things that now we're going to get into the weeds with the critique stuff. This is all functional because, like I said, in terms of how the combat works moment to moment, I think it is quite good. My criticism from last time we recorded is I still agree that I personally wish the tells for the attacks were a little more uniform and consistent. I was telling you, when you get really deep into it and you've played a significant amount of it, the closest you can come to the most significant tell for when you need to push a button is just visually when it looks like whatever the attacking force is right in proximity of your character. So whether that's kind of the projectile itself or if it's kind of a melee attack, then when the enemy just happens to be very close to touching them. But as far as audio cues and other flashes and stuff like that, I found that stuff to be somewhat inconsistent, where sometimes some moves are super clearly telegraphed and some feel much less so, but but in a shitty way. Not in an intentional way. If that some of them, it's across the board. So some of them feel telegraphed and readable in a good intentional way. Some of them feel shitty in also a good way, where oh, this thing is gonna swipe 8 times.
Yeah.
But each swipe is very readable to me. My fingers still have to keep up. My the mental stack needs to not be overloaded. But I feel like the game is not, at fault here.
Trying to pull a fast one.
Right, and then there are other ones where it just feels like some of the timing of the moves is not as high quality as the others. The timing or the tell or whatever. Like,
I remember
so it's a mixed bag.
When we were watching the speed run race, I remember one time in particular, like, oh yeah, like these just don't match up, so you have to actually do it like faster or slower.
I
like,
think
that's kind of shitty.
There is some amount of that in the game where just the quality of that stuff is not consistent across the board. Similarly, on the level design front, I feel that way as well, where there are some areas in the game that are both beautifully rendered and well laid out, and then there are some other ones where it is a much more generic space laid out in ways that, like, there were more than one occasion where, like, you're wandering around an area, you get into a battle, you do your, turn-based combat or whatever, and then when I came out of it, I walked the wrong direction just because of the way that the levels are laid out, and there's no mini-map, and so it was like, so there's some spaces that are nondescript enough that it is easy to get accidentally turned around in. So like I said, that I think the level design on that front too is like, some of it's quite good, some of it is fine, and some of it is a little less than fine. And then the last big major thing that I don't love is I think the UI for managing your abilities is not great.
It was the most I saw of it was during that speed run, and granted they were menuing like crazy, but it didn't look particularly inspired.
So there are basically two different avenues for kind of getting passive abilities in the game. So that, because your character has a core set of 6 moves that are kind of like the Persona Pokemon style. Like, here are the attacks, the actions that you can do in combat, and there's
Things
a wider
for their
variety.
Class.
Yeah, there's a wider variety of those than that. Each character probably has 20 or 30 things that you could slot into there.
They had a minor tech tree, it looked like.
Yeah, that it just determines they have different costs and when you encounter them or whatever. And so that stuff isn't too bad, socketing those back and forth, because it's a relatively smaller number of them per character. But then there are Pictos and Luminas. Pictos are basically equipable items that give you a passive ability and also give you a stat buff in one or more of the passive stats, attack, defense, health, that kind of thing. And then Luminas are derived from Pictos in that while you have a Picto equipped, it'll always give you some passive ability in your Lumina stack that's parrying gives you more action points or whatever. And then if you use a Picto enough, if you win 4 fights while one of the Pictos is equipped on your character, it goes from only being used on the character it's equipped on to it basically adds to your Lumina pile. And Luminas can be turned on for Lumina points, which is just another stat pool that characters get. If a character has 30 Lumina points and you want to give them the ability that you get more action points by parrying, you can either have the Picto on them and it costs nothing, but there are 3 Picto slots, so a character can only have 3 equipped at once, or you can activate it in your Lumina menu and it'll cost a certain amount of Lumina points, maybe it costs 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever. So you can activate things in there up to your cap at that point. And I just think that that menu sucks to navigate, because by the time you get to the mid-end game, you have a lot of those.
Yeah.
And on that screen, there's no description for what they do at all other than their titles.
Ooh.
It's when you hover over them, there is, but when you're just looking at them all, it's just a bunch of words.
I mean, that's how those screens normally are. Thinking back to Final Fantasy IX, it's just a big old box, and there's just
so here's the other
words.
thing, or maybe that's not fair to that game, because I haven't played enough of it to say about Final Fantasy IX specifically. But the thing that for me is that in this game, I feel like you're changing that stuff up pretty frequently to service certain fights, and it's that menu is cumbersome enough that it slows down the gameplay in an unfun way.
It's just the sheer number of them, presumably, that would you're scrolling.
Well, yeah, I either think there should be less of them, because there are a decent number of them that are just kind of goofy ones, just here's one that just introduces some RNG into your combat that they're in there for flavor, but they're not really useful.
Yeah.
So I either think you could have done that, you could have just made less of them, or I'm certain there are ways you could redesign that menu, because it's kind of the other thing about it is it's kind of one column that takes up the left 30% of the screen, because your character's got to be on there, this pause menu or whatever. And I feel you could have just made it horizontal and below the screen and filled up way more of it.
The thing with 9 is it's a matrix. It's I think it's 3 columns and a sheer infinite number of rows, because it's just however big the text row is. It's a very big screen.
Yeah, I would have to theory craft more to think how I would change it to try to make it a little less shitty, but I do
Interesting.
think it's just kind of annoying.
A single column list does suck.
Well, it's not. So it's not a list of one. It is 3 columns, but I'm saying you could have used more of the screen to make more columns, or to surface the text information about them without having to hover over them. Like that could have just been on all of them all the time if you had laid this out differently and changed it a bit. So it's not that there's a single column that you scroll linearly through, but it's that it takes up way less screen real estate than it could if it was a screen more just dedicated to managing those. And then as far as the pictos themselves, again, just as one more way where you could have reduced the amount of menuing, and I think kept the game more balanced on top of this. The pictos give stat buffs by having them equipped. And by the end game, they are like really significant stat buffs. Like you can easily double or triple a character's like defense stat or health or whatever by just equipping the right pictos to them. And it kind of trivializes the point system, like dumping points into those stats to some degree, because it is just so easy to shuffle stats around. And then it's a one more thing you have to like remember when you're turning your luminas on and off, because like at that point you're almost like, once you've unlocked them all, right, you're only putting pictos on for the stats for the most part. There are a couple that are so expensive that you might socket it on a specific character because you can't afford like the lumina burden of turning that ability on that character. But for the most part,
that and maybe something else that's also expensive,
right? Yeah, but for the most part you're just socketing them in for the stats, and then you do that, and then now you might have abilities that you don't even like necessarily wouldn't use otherwise, or if they are ones you use, you now have to go back in and be like, oh well, now this I don't need to have this turned on them in the Lumina sense because it's already on them, and so now I have to go back to the Lumina menu and fiddle around a little bit. It's just I think it unbalances the game in a way that makes it ultimately less interesting and less fun because the stat buffs are so juiced, and it is one more thing to manage in the UI.
Overkill, and you're just like, we get rid of the damage cap at some point, and you're so strong.
It is just one more vector of menuing, because every time you kind of have to respec for a fight, you might change your party composition, so you might change the characters you're fighting with, and then you might go into their ability menus and change what abilities they have equipped, and then you're going to go into the pictos and decide what pictos they have equipped, and then you're going to go into the Lumina menu and decide what Luminos they have equipped. And if you just took one of those off permanently, like if the pictos were just consumed when you like learned the thing and then gone, I think it would just be a more frictionless gameplay experience that I would have preferred. And then as far as trailing little stuff, there are just a handful of little rough edges in the game that, like, for a thing that's been as high praised as it was, and for a thing that is so high quality for the most part, these are like little things that stuck out to me that I'm just shocked that they're in there or that they're still in there. So there's a type of enemy, I'm not going to pronounce this name correctly, but there's a type of enemy called the and these are all like specific little nitpicky things, so that's why I'm saving for the end. Like ultimately none of these are, well, this one is pretty darn close to a deal breaker. The other ones are not. There's an enemy called a Brazzler. That's the closest I'm going to get to saying that right. And it's like a phase shifting type of elemental dude. I think they're all fire and ice, but they might be other elements too. But they're like an elemental type enemy that attacks you with an element, and then when you hit them with an element, they change their own element. And that's not the only enemy that does that, but that enemy that does that, when you change their element from fire to ice, it just soft locks the game. It just after you do that, the next time it becomes that enemy's turn, the game just sits there forever, and there's nothing you can do about it other than, like, luckily, because so the combat is totally frozen at that point. Luckily, the main pause menu still works.
Okay.
And there's like an auto like resign, like you can just choose to give up on a fight option in there. So luckily, as opposed to like, restarting that game, you can do that. You can just forfeit the fight and then basically like go back to your last save or whatever, which is technically better than like having to like close the app and restart it. But that happens across every version of that enemy, because there's even like sometimes there's like beefed up like mini boss versions of the same enemy. They all do that, and they have different like little like it's like like Brazzler Prime or whatever. They have different titles, and so it happened to me 2 or 3 times in the game. And the last time or two that it happened, it was like I had just even forgotten about it because like, oh, that's a different enemy, and then I just happened to hit them with an ice attack or whatever it was, and then it flipped the thing and it soft locked the game. And I'm like, you guys, how many Game of the Year awards have you won? Yeah. And this game has been out for how many months? Fucking fix this. Like, what are we doing? So that is like, I'm astonished. I wonder if it's platform specific, because I was playing on Xbox for the record.
I mean, I literally searched. It's the chromatic Brazzler,
Sure.
I'd say.
Yeah.
And there's a Reddit thread from about a month ago. Talking about it, it's called a known bug. Like, they just said it was the mod for the subreddit, which is like, it's a known bug.
Okay.
And everyone is just like talking about it.
Because I
Seems
can't.
like it's
Well, the thing is,
very
with a bug
common.
that prevalent, because it's just a thing you're gonna do. I have to assume that was found within the first few weeks of like the game being out, if not the first day, depending on. I don't know actually how big a splash this game made the day it came out, but like I think this game's been out for like 8 months or something. Fucking fix it. It's a soft lock. Jesus Christ. So that I think is actually unforgivable, that a bug that severe has been in the game for this long, for as high profile as this product is. I think that sucks. And then there are other stuff in the neighborhood of that are not like functionally problematic and not deal breakers, but I do wonder if different platforms perform a little differently, or if some of this stuff is just like, well, Unreal Engine 5 also just kind of sucks in some ways, and so this is just like, it's baked into the fucking pie at this point. That thing I described in the first time we recorded this, where basically when you come out of either a combat scenario or a cutscene, and the game loads immediately into a cutscene from there, there's pretty much always a frame or two where it loads the gameplay level you're in first. So it'll be like, you'll go from kind of like black screen of having win a fight to like maybe a frame or two of just like a character idly standing in the 3D environment waiting to be interacted with into a black like fade up cutscene. And that's just like I'm like, you guys couldn't fix this?
Or like done something more to like
because again, that's like
it.
right. I'm like, I know how I'd cheap and dirtily fix it, which maybe this wouldn't work, maybe it would, but just put a black thing over the camera until you turn it off manually.
Yeah.
Right? And again, I do think, like I said, this game is huge. I think it is wildly impressive for being made. It seems like it was made by somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 people. For the size of that team, I think what they have achieved in general is incredible, but like you couldn't fix that.
Yeah.
Like with 50 fucking people, I wouldn't leave a presentational issue like that in a game that we make. Unintentional, like unless it was like there was no way to get around it.
Yeah.
Which like maybe there isn't. I don't know.
But then you lean into it. Like you try to like you make it like you don't try to like beat it. You just like, okay, like we're gonna make sure like that's where like the black like just putting something in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Until the stuff is loaded and then like
so that's like I feel like this could have been fixed and you guys just didn't bother and it's been months and you just haven't gone back to fix this very jarring if minor issue.
Yeah.
There's some significant texture pop in during cutscenes sometimes, which
Ew.
I found a bit distracting. Again, it's very brief. It is like, and
but
this
you
might
notice it still.
and this might be different per platform. It is possible that the consoles perform much worse than PC, which still sucks, but sucks less if the PC version doesn't do this. But it does suck. And that is I will say that is like the thing I just mentioned. I feel like is trivial to fix. They just didn't bother to do it. This is probably a much harder issue, especially on certain platforms. So I do think that it sucks that it is that way, but I can understand if it would be very difficult to fix in some contexts. So that one, like, I think it's bad, but I can see how it would be very complicated to address potentially. And like I said, it's not like it is pretty brief when it happens, but it is noticeable when it happens. And then that was pretty much it for like those kind of things. The one I had mentioned about characters, like, and that's another like again probably just Unreal thing where they like when you kind of come out of talking into someone and they do like the way they like settle into the world and do their neutral pose is still also very jarring to me. And like I said, that might be another. I could also believe that is a very hard problem to fix. When the character kind of goes from like being idle and uncontrolled to like reactivated in the physics engine and being controllable or whatever. Like I'm sure if you put enough hours and money into it, it is solvable. But it is possible that is not like the juice is not worth the squeeze on that one.
Yeah.
and again that is also still very brief, and so I'll give you that. But it is another thing I noticed in a game with otherwise like super high attention to detail and high production values. And I'm like, this is weird looking. Like this kind of stinks. But I think that's it for my big nitpicky list of nitpicks for Clair Obscur.
Non-story related list of nitpicks.
Yeah, nitpicks about Clair Obscur. But with all of that said, if you have ever been interested in a turn-based RPG like,
and you can stand the French.
And you can stand the French. Yeah, I guess if you're really against the French, you won't like this game because it is very French. But I would still highly recommend it. And for as big as it is, again, this is where you can actually like. Sometimes people will say like, "Oh, we had no idea what the reaction for this would be like, and we're overwhelmed by by the level of support. For this, I 100% believe that just because they chose to charge $50 for it. I think if they knew what they had, this game would have cost $60. Because I think it's worth $60. Honestly, like it's better than like every Call of Duty game that's either come out in the last decade or that's ever been made. And Microsoft is charging $70 or $80 for those.
Yeah.
It's probably better than every game Ubisoft has ever made. It's better. I prefer it to every Ubisoft game I've ever played, and it was mostly made by former Ubisoft people.
Yeah.
Which means it's not like that company didn't have the talent. It's just that they weren't willing to like greenlight something worth playing. And so yeah, for $50 or less, and it's been on sale on Steam at this point, you can very easily get it for $40 if you wait around a bit. I would highly recommend it. It is pretty good. I've got my problems with it. I still don't think there is a such thing as a perfect game. So like again, relative to like the glowing praise to what it is, I think the game industry is all gas or all brakes. Like game fans are kind of like that.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think it's like the pinnacle of perfection that can be unquestioned.
I mean,
but I think it's damn
they
good.
didn't make Star Fox 64, so obviously it can't be the only perfect game.
Yeah, it is a well-made thing that is much better than most of the stuff that comes out in the video game industry these days, and I am very glad that I tried it. I'm glad the library had it.
Yeah.
So that I was able to give it a shot and be like, oh, okay, let's do this.
And then you were like, oh, I need to buy this.
Yeah.
And then you did.
Yeah. Still 2 thumbs up with a couple of quibbles here and there for Clair Obscur.
Couple of asterisks, but...
And yeah, with all that said, we talked about games for quite a while, so I
Yeah.
think that's going to do it for us. We're just going to keep working on stuff. Thank you, Lorraine, for joining me. Thank you out there for listening. If you've got a game you'd like us to play, we will potentially try to do it. Like, I'm going to be busy for the next few months, but we'll see. But if you've got an indie game and you want us to try it out, email it to us at podcast@cubicorngames.com, and I will try my best to give it a look.
Yeah.
You can follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and most places podcasts are found. You can follow our game dev work more directly, searching for Super Cucumber on Steam, wishlisting that because we're working hard on it, and then clicking the Discord link on that Steam page to join our Discord. And yeah, I think we're going to call it. So thank you so much. Stay safe out there, and we will be back in a couple of weeks with another podcast.
Bye.